Oh, there it goes. It wasn't clicking my audio off, but now there it is. Hello, everybody, and welcome to MangaPod. We're a weekly podcast in which we all get together after we read all or part of a manga, and then we discuss it with friendship, love, and lots of spoilers. I'm Aaron of Happily Aaron, and this week we discussed... Finally, hold on to your butts. Are you guys ready? Are you guys so ready for what we discussed this week? Tower of God. We finally are going to be talking Tower of God. I wish we had the whole team together for this, but unfortunately, Dodger is not feeling good, so you should go and send her love, and Yoku couldn't make it because he had work, so you should also go and send him some tweeting love and stuff like that. But we are going to be discussing chapters 132 through 190, and this shit is lit. It's so dope, spoiler alert, but it's so good. So we are going to be discussing this. I'm Aaron of Happily Aaron. Like I said, I'm a host, and with me is one of my lovely co-hosts, but that's okay, because we're going to rock this. But if you don't mind introducing yourself, sir?
My name is Lou, and I'm from Lou Talks Anime, and it is indeed very lit. This is my first talk pod, and I'm very hyped to discuss this great manga.
It is your first talk pod. Yeah, because I think the last time, Lou looked it up, and the last time we talked Tower of God, even though it has been on every single schedule, the last time we actually talked, it was 2 years ago. Two years. That's ridiculous. But we're finally, and we have read this, at least I personally have read this section, I think 4 times.
Yeah, I've read it at least twice.
Yeah, you've read it at least twice. So let's do spoiler-free description, and then we'll do spoiler-free recommendation. So if you guys have never joined us for a MangaPod before, what we like to do is give you a short spoiler-free description, aka summary of the manga that we read, and then we will also give you our spoiler-free recommendations, whether we think you should spend time going to read this manga or not. That way, when we get to spoiler section and it sounds interesting to you, you don't have to get spoiled. You can take your leave, go and read it, then come back and watch the VOD of this here on YouTube. The first... I think it's 2. No, we've done 3 manga pods on this already. So the first, right?
I think 4 is what I remember seeing on the database.
This is number 4, right? Hold on.
I don't know.
Hold on.
There's been a plethora.
We've done a lot of Tog pods. Hang on. I feel like it was 3. Oh, God. Hold. 1, 2, 4? Wow!
Alright, so this is number 5. Swag.
What? That blows my mind. I am so surprised by that. I don't know why, but I'm very surprised by that. It's worth it.
Well, because people keep asking for it. That's
true.
Why there are so many of them.
It's been on every schedule because people want us to read it so bad. So I'm going to give you that spoiler-free. Hold on. Go and pull that up, because I forgot to pull that up before, because I'm such a professional. Oh, there it is on the front page of Hot Manga. Who would have thought? All right. What do you desire? Fortune, glory, power, revenge, or something that surpasses all others? Whatever you desire, that is here. Tower of God. Join 25th Bomb as he climbs each level of the tower to find his beloved friend Rahel. Facing from... Wow. Facing from impossible missions to mind-bending puzzles as he uses any means necessary to reach the top. There we go.
Yeah, you did it.
Thank you. That was a doozy. I don't know what happened. So that is a pretty apt summary of at least the first section. It gets to be so much more than that. Let's go ahead and do our spoiler-free recommendations. Lou, would you like to go first?
I mean, yeah, I'll go first. I think us starting the Tog pod by saying that this is lit should be an indication as to our recommendation, but yeah. I will reiterate it in case you missed that. It's really fucking good. Like, obscenely fucking good. 190 chapters flew by. This section of reading was maybe 60 chapters, and I couldn't put it down. For those 60 chapters, I was just glued to my phone. So yeah, it's pretty lit, guys. Highly recommend it. Amazing art. fun characters, absolutely must read.
I concur. This is, like I said, I've read this section 4 different times. And I've had to reread the section before this a few times as well, simply because I couldn't quite remember the first few times. I couldn't remember what was happening up until what we had read. And so I reread the first few parts, and I have never once gotten tired of reading this manga. Every single manhwa, every time I've read it, I have gotten just as engaged, just as interested, and just as many goosebumps. Like, that's really, like, overused terms, but so many goosebumps because of how well done the action is, how well done the reveals and payoffs are, how well done the characters and the character relationships are, the art. It's just ridiculously fantastic. And there's a reason that it's one of the most popular manhwas, if not the most popular manhwa. And I crave an anime of this series, hopefully someday. But I would recommend it definitely if you enjoy shonen, especially Hunter x Hunter. If you enjoyed Hunter x Hunter, you need to check out Tower of God. It's basically a must. And you're just going to find yourself completely engulfed in the world very quickly. And we're in what is considered season 2, but it goes by so fast, and you just read it. Just go read it. I'm gushing, but this has definitely become one of my favorite comics that I have ever read. It's in my top, I would recommend it like in my top 5 comics, like that, especially that we read on MangaPod. So I highly go and suggest checking it out for sure. And you do not want to be spoiled. You do not want to be spoiled on. This is one that when I was Googling images, Lou and I both, when we were Googling images to put in Dodger and Yoku's places, we were both like, we don't want to Google this because what if there's a spoiler? And so it's one you don't want to be spoiled on. If you have even a little inkling of wanting to check this out, then I highly suggest that when we get to spoiler section, you go and read it. And it's not going to take you long to read it at all. 190 chapters sounds daunting, but it's going to go by really fast, especially in the format that it is. I mean, it's going to take a little bit of time, but it's going to go real quick, and you'll find yourself not wanting to stop reading it. So there you go. Highly recommend it. I spent like 5 minutes just telling you my spoiler-free recommendations, so this is going to be a real fun manga pod. So let's go ahead and do our jump into spoiler section. If you guys have not been here for spoiler section before, we have a few rules. We ask that you do not spoil anything for the manhwa up until, or anything past chapter 190. Because we, like you said, we do not want to be spoiled for anything. Do not even post any fake or funny fake spoilers or anything, because we don't know if they're real or fake, and we're on YouTube only tonight, which means you will be banned. So please just don't even think about doing it. So yeah, shall we jump in?
Let's do it.
I'm excited to hear who you're gonna say is God.
Okay, let's count it down.
4, 3, 2, 1.
The tower is God.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Slave in utero is also God.
Slave in utero.
For those that don't know, that stuck around past our little countdown, that haven't read Tower of God, Slave in utero is the alias for the manhwagaka, which is our little pet name for Korean manga artist.
Siu manhwagaka. Siu. Yeah. Dude, he is so God.
Yes, he is. Like it's like everything in terms of the aesthetic, which I know this is something that we always do at the end, but just mind-blowing how good it is. And the thing is, I've read other manhwas since that have almost that level of polish, and I've read other manga since the last time I read this that have almost that level of polish. And I was still taken aback by how fucking good this read was.
Yeah.
Like in terms of how the visuals were. But we'll get to that later.
Yes.
So.
I want to know, Hugo Tortu. Ooh, wow, I misspoke your name so bad. But, he wants to know what arc we just finished. We just finished the workshop arc. Where it's literally right before they're gonna go do the train stuff. So that is where we finished. We haven't touched on any train, anything. It's literally right after the workshop art, and like the teams have parted ways. That's where we're at. So please don't spoil anything past that. Please, 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 please. All right, there's so much to cover. We read 60 chapters approximately. I know I read exactly 60 because I read 192 because I couldn't stop myself. I had to keep reading. Gosh, where do we start? So where we ended at the end of the last MangaPod / last reading, we ended when Kun and Bam met again. That's where we ended at the last reading, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And then so we started here right after Bam saved Kun, and then Kun got rescued by some of Bam's dudes, I think is what happened. Right? Is this when they... God, I'm trying to remember. I'm just so engulfed in what happened later.
The
actual
like
workshop?
later in the actual workshop, like that section specifically, the latter portion of the tournament when they're trying to get the thorn. That's just pretty insane.
So trying to go in order. But the section, so we have all that whole part where Kun meets up with Viola, is his name. Currently it's Bomb's name, alias right now. He meets up with Viola's team and joins up with them. So like Wang Nan, I think is how you say his name. The yellow-haired horn dude.
Curry Turtle.
Curry Turtle. That's when Kun meets up with Curry Turtle. And also we get to see the old team again, like Lisu and that whole team that we first fell in love with in the first season. We get to see them again. And that whole part where the first time they are revealed in this arc, and it's after they're talking about Kun being killed by Viola, and you're just like, oh shit. I remember the first time, even this time, I still I don't know about Lou, I'm interested, Lou, to hear what you thought when you saw them again for the first time. But I will never not, I mentioned goosebumps earlier, I will never not get goosebumps in the moment where they're all walking and they say, let's go fuck up Viola. Like that part, I have it screen grabbed if you guys would like to be reminded.
Please indulge me with your screen grab there. I remember just being obscenely hyped. Like whenever, like at any point in this story, like they're like, all right, we're gonna go do something, and like she always includes a panel of them like walking determined, like with a sense of like determination in their movement. Like there's, I don't know. That's the shit's about to go down.
Yeah, like panel. Where Lisu or whatever is like, let's fuck him up. Oh my god, this panel is so dope. It's just like one example about how the mangaka can build hype the whole time. But yeah, getting to see that team again, especially after not having seen them for a while, because from when I don't know if that's when season 1. Season 1 ends after Bam gets thrown from the tower. That's where season 1 ends. And so it's 7 years between when Bam gets thrown from the tower to the current arc. There's 7 years in between there. And so getting to see them after it feels like 7 years, just
Well, I mean, that's because the story goes to Bam building his team.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which I think that like that period of time of Bam building his team and then being separated from his team is to create that impact when his original team comes back into the picture.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. Yeah, because there was that feeling of, as Bam was building his first team, where you're like, this isn't the team. Like, this isn't the team that I want. But you slowly fall in love with the characters on that team, too. There's just so many characters to keep straight that a lot of times I was like, wait, okay, especially at the end, after the workshop is over and everybody meets again on the plane, there were so many freaking people, because it was like Bam's new team, Bam's old team, Kun's team, all just there, and you're just like, oh, there's so many of you. There are so many.
Yep.
God, there's so many people. But
So
yeah.
that's why I'm gonna go with if I hope no one minds, but I'm gonna go with Rack's form of
Turtles.
identifying people. Black turtle, blue turtle, curry turtle, monster turtle. Monster turtle was fun as shit. That's Beta, by the way.
Dude, okay, let's talk. You know what? Let's just talk about Beta. I want to hear your thoughts on Beta.
This story is pretty sad. It's just like, yeah, like first he's essentially plucked from obscurity, an orphan, and experimented on, and develops this sense of camaraderie with the five remaining survivors. And he's like, yeah, we're a family. We're family guys. We're just gonna get through this. And then he gets told, oh yeah, the last person standing gets their freedom, murder each other. So he essentially has to slaughter what he calls or considers his own family. And yeah, the poor baby, poor baby.
I felt there were times where I was annoyed by him because it was before I knew his backstory, but there were some times I was like, why are you so obsessed with Violet? Why are you this like out there intent on hurting him? And of course I knew that when we found out his backstory it'd probably be revealed, but there was just moments where I was like, why are you here? Like where is your purpose? But I really did enjoy how he was inserted into the story and how he ended up being such a vital part of explaining why the experiments, what was wrong with the experiments. Like, I really enjoyed how many characters ended up being connected to each other when they're first introduced. You don't realize could even have those connections with one another.
I feel with Violet kind of going into his, like, dissecting why Beta's motives were weak. I feel like that was Siu pointing out the flaw in Beta's story, because it seems fairly obvious that while Violet, like, everything was done to create Violet, or essentially turn him into the perfect weapon. It definitely felt weak, like, in terms of like Beta's reasonings, because obviously Violet was a pawn in everything that was going on. It was the researchers, it was Fug, it was a bunch of other people, not Violet, and him specifically targeting Violet's friends. Again, just there's little issues that I have with this story. Like, it's a good story, but I feel like it could have been done a little bit better.
Yeah, there's times where it feels like the character is trying, because there's very standard shonen-y tropes within Tower of God. And so there's times where it feels like the mangaka is wanting to take that standard trope and kind of put a twist and refreshing on it, but doesn't necessarily succeed. Like, I think he succeeds overall, like, 90% of the time. And then you get examples like, what's his name? B? The guy we were just talking about?
Oh, Beta.
I don't know how I forgot that. But there's examples of like Beta where he feels a little bit weaker, a weaker part of the story. Where it could have been improved on, or just fleshed out a little bit more. Like, if we'd gotten a little bit more tidbits of why he was emotional early on, instead of having it just info dumped at the end, that, oh, this was his horrible past. If they had kind of like dropped that seed a little bit earlier, I think it would have had more impact when he said the whole thing. But there was just times, especially before that was revealed, that it felt a little bit weak. Love his character design though.
Yeah.
His character design is
it's pretty dope.
Cool.
Like, especially there was this one panel where like all of him was dark except for his hat, and I thought that was the coolest shit.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about the villains of this section, the shadow guy, I forget his name, but the shadow guy. Yeah, that guy. I feel like he is a relatively weak villain, not in terms of like the strength, but like the story behind who he is as a character.
Yeah.
I think a lot of my perception of him being such a weak villain stems from Rachel.
Yeah.
Since Rachel was like such an awesome foil to Bam and Kun.
Yeah.
And seeing how she has developed in the earlier portions of the reading, like it, I don't know, like you feel like honestly, it feels like Beta and the Shadow Guy were basically a stopgap to get us to the next section with Rachel, which she does appear at the very end of the section of reading that we did.
She's in like the last chapter. I definitely agree with that. I didn't even think about that until you said that, but the villains of this were much weaker than the protagonists. The antagonists were, like you said, kind of just fillers to move this section along in terms of, hey, we need a bad guy in this section, but we can't use Rachel, so let's come up with these like filler baddies who like have some emotion, like emotional story to Bam. But I thought that Riflulala's connection to Bam was definitely tighter than and more believable than Beta's, but I still think he was pretty boring. And he was also one of those characters that I thought was kind of like I wasn't that interested in throughout the whole thing. And then even when in the last big fight, how powerful he was felt very out of nowhere to me. And so that made the action in that scene, in that whole fight, is what made that fight great, but I never felt any sort of threat from him, if that makes sense.
Like, the threat, which chat is pointing out, Reflejo. His name's in Spanish.
Reflejo. Oh.
Reflejo.
Okay. Not Reflejo. Reflejo.
You're very close.
Thanks.
But his strength stemmed from Asuka clone, because she looks like Asuka in End of Evangelion.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Looks a lot like her. Her being a hostage.
Yeah.
Definitely played it. But my issue with it is, okay, like Kun got her away from him fairly quickly, so the fight should have ended faster because of how overpowered Bam is. Like, especially when like the thorn exited its bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was something too that felt a little bit like a cop-out. Not that he got the thorn, but the fact that when he was using it, the bad guy wasn't defeated, even though Bam's supposed to have all this sort of amazing power. The bad guy wasn't defeated because it was like, oh, you don't know how to use that, so it's not gonna work against me. And then also Kun, for being as calculating and intelligent and like thinking 5 steps ahead as he is, it didn't quite work for me that he just all of a sudden remembered that he had that item. And so that was something that I felt a little cheated on, but just the way that they intercut in between so many different groups and have it all building up momentum, that's not the word. Momentum. Having all of it ramping up in momentum and then all climaxing together and like coming together at the same point. That's really intelligent storytelling. Because when you have so many different pieces, it's so hard to make them all line up so perfectly like that. So that shows that the mangaka definitely thought most of the story out. I just think there were certain ways where he was like, oh, I'm not quite sure how to end this to get this to the point that I want it to, so here's like this thing.
Yeah, no, I definitely see where you're coming from with that. One thing I will give Siu credit for is the fact that even though he was cutting in between multiple stories, at no point did I feel like I was lost. I felt like I always knew what was going on in each segment of the story, and the pacing was consistent throughout all the stories, so it wasn't awkward when he would jump from, let's say, Kun's group to Bam's group to Fug doing their little shenanigans. Like, it felt very well paced. Like, there were no awkward shifts in pacing is what I mean to say.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And that was kind of like along the lines of what I was like trying to get across too. That you never feel like one group is just out of nowhere, or that you don't understand what one group is doing, because they're all so lined up and impacting one another that the pacing, like you said, the pacing of each one is just perfect. It's so great. And talking about villains, Chad is talking about Mad Dog, and talking about how he was sidelined, and definitely. I don't know, was there a guy like Mad Dog in season 1?
I don't think so.
Because I feel like this was
like
a
season 1 is
fever
a
dream.
lot. Like season 1 is a lot of them like going against the test, not actually having an active antagonist.
So I don't know what's going on in my head, but I must have had a fever dream or something. Or I read way far ahead before, but I don't think that happened because the last section that we were reading, I didn't quite remember. Like the end of the test, I didn't remember reading before. And so I thought for some reason that Bam and Mad Dog had a major fight and that Mad Dog got killed. And like, for some reason, that's what was going on. I was so confused about why that didn't happen. But I think there was some character that looked a lot like Mad Dog that Bam fought previously. Unless I just wrote a fan fiction in my head. But I
Sounds pretty cool. Like I'd read it. But I honestly don't remember anything like that happening.
So the whole time I was reading it, I was like, oh, when are Bam and Mad Dog gonna fight? When are Bam and Mad Dog gonna fight? And it never, and like, the story went completely different. So I was very confused by that. But yeah, Mad Dog was built up to be this really fearsome and ferocious guy. And he definitely got put way on the outskirts of stuff. And
yes, because the princess had to look strong in the story. Yeah. Like for the story to progress, for her to retain her status as the best girl, because that's what the story is trying to do.
Yeah.
It presents the media chasing her and people fawning over her left and right, and her being just an overpowered badass. Yeah. Like he needed to be sacrificed for that. I will say that it definitely comes off like he's going to be a threat to Bam and his team later.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how that develops. Or maybe he'll end up switching sides and joining Bam. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's Tower of God. Anything
could happen. Yeah. Okay, Bull from Volume 1 is what somebody... Hang on, I'm gonna look. Bull, Tower of God. I'm gonna look. No. That's not. There was a dude with white hair. I swear to God, there was a dude with white hair and had some red character design going on that Bam fought against before. So, okay, so there are other people. Wait, I think Mad Dog fought against someone who looked like Bam.
No, I don't think so.
No.
Because Bam, like Mad Dog had that one fight in the individual round where he decapitated the guy, and that was the extent of Mad Dog fighting.
Mad Dog pretty much taught Bam how to hoverboard. Maybe that's who it was. It was a ranker. Yeah, it was definitely a ranker. I'm gonna have to go back and reread.
The rankers that I remember are their teacher, like the guy from the floor of test.
Yeah.
And
Leo.
The other ranker Leo, and the other guy that ended up quitting with him.
Quinto.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That he ended up coming at the end, which I remember him having like darker skin, and I think he had white hair, doesn't he?
Quinto, he has red hair.
Red hair.
Mm-hmm. He.
I don't know. Maybe that's who you're thinking of?
No. It's fine. I'll just go back and reread. I don't want to spend the whole volume on being like, who was this thing that I might have dreamed up? Like, what? I'm gonna have to go back and like reread. But I was gonna say, so Sleepy Guy was someone. Let's go and jump to talking about the protagonists, because there was a lot of protagonists in what we read. Sleepy Guy was a character who came out of nowhere. Like, you know that he's there because they always have his blanket, but he popped up when he needed to pop up and then was gone. Did a thing and then was sleeping the rest of the time. I was like, where do you come from? But at the same time, I felt so happy to see him just because I loved him from season 1. And so getting to see him again made me really happy.
No,
But
he's
yeah.
a pretty great character. I really enjoy how much he dislikes doing things that aren't sleeping,
Yeah.
because I really relate to that.
Yeah.
Like any opportunity I get to sleep, I jump on that. But my only issue with him is how like overpowered he is relative to any situation,
Yeah.
because like he automatically knew what was wrong with Beta. It's like, oh, like your flow of energy is weird. You must have like a parasite in your brain. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do this, and then you're gonna throw up, and then it throws up, and I don't
It's
know.
like there it
Like
is.
it makes sense for his character to be that guy that occasionally shows up and solves problems. Like it totally makes sense, but it still kind of bothers me that, you know, I want him to get like some one-off lines like he did in the first part of the reading, where
Yeah.
like he would complain, like you would know he's there because he's complaining about things going on.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like listening and stuff like that. But yeah, I like if he'd had a little bit more screen time instead of just popping up to do the one thing, which was like another, because Beta, the whole reason Beta was able to take part is because of this random parasite that happened to be there. And so, yeah, he just came in to be like, that was another one. It's like, oh, I have this loose end. I need to figure out how to rid of it so I can get to the next point. Okay, there's Sleepy Guy. Perfect. Um, the yeah, so there's Sleepy Guy, and we got to see. So the first major fight that we really saw was when they had the guns and they were trying to get into the tournament up into the cloud ship.
Yeah.
So they had the gun section, which was like the qualifier round, and then they had the semifinals, I think it was, where they were all like in different groups, and then they had the finals, which took place on the big island, simulated island.
Yeah.
So we got to see Anak versus Ran. Ran?
Ran, and that fight was lit.
So
That
good.
was great.
Both of their
That
fights were freaking dope. Oh.
absolutely, like specifically that one, because like they have the opportunity to go all out on each other, and in terms of like the various perspectives that we were given throughout the fight, the use of the general environment where that they were in, um just the choreography of the fighting, everything flowed really well. Like
Yes.
this is some of the best action, like some of the best action I've read in any manga,
Yeah.
and it's for two basically side characters. So
Yeah, it was two characters. I mean, they're like so yeah, what's the right word? They're not definitely not the focus. So they're
mhm.
not the characters that you're like, "Oh, they're the strongest or whatever," but they were freaking great to have. And I liked that was another thing that like obviously the Monogaka used their fight to have them disqualified because he didn't want them to be a factor in the final fight, because I think having them be a factor in the final fight would have put too many strong people in there. And then also the fact that they were like they had such a thing at each other, it was much better that it accumulated and climaxed before they got to the finals. And so I think that was a very smart move for him to put them there instead of during the like big final, because I think it would have been too distracting and it would have taken away from the focus of Bam and everything.
Yeah, I would go a step further and say one of the main reasons why that happened is more along the lines of because it ends in a non-finish. Like they're
Yes.
both at the point where they're gonna land their finishing blows, and they do, but there isn't a definite winner. So I think
Mm-hmm.
a big part of why the Manhwagaka decided to go that route is to revisit the conflict later,
Yes.
because we didn't get a definite answer as to who is the stronger of the two.
Yeah. And it was like definitely sad that we didn't get an answer, but their chemistry and their fight scenes are so awesome that I don't mind waiting because I want to see them fight again. I want to see them just fight forever. Because the action during that is very creative. Like, the perspectives during every single action scene in this is one of the things that stand out. And makes the action as good as it is, because the mangaka isn't afraid of going different perspectives and different angles. Because every angle that he draws from, there's a lot of times where you see characters where mangakakas draw people, and there's obviously better angles that the mangaka is better drawing than other angles. And so it shows kind of how fearless Shuei's gotten in his art style, because he's not afraid to draw, like, arms pulled back, perspective behind the head, like, hand up, clothes rippling. And that's just a testament to how far he's come with his art. And it really makes the action scenes so engaging, because you see every movement and you're able to picture it a lot more. There's no real imagining what it looks like. The way it's drawn makes you hear the noises. Like, it makes you think of what soundtrack would go, like what the voice acting is. Like, you can literally, like, there's a lot of times where you read comics or manga and you hear your own voice reading the character lines, or you hear your own voice reading the, like, dialogue. But when there's a lot of time it comes along where the character, the manhwa or manhwa or book, the characters are so strong, or the action and the art is so strong, that you're reading it from it. Like, you're just in it. Like, you're so engaged. Like, you can hear the voices, like, character voices and everything. I don't know if that's just me, but
No, I totally
just,
get
like,
what you're saying.
yeah, it's like it's so engaging.
Like, it has a life of its own.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah, it has a life of its own. It has its own voice, and that's exactly what this is.
Yeah, like, it looks like it would be really interesting as an anime adaptation. So, like, Japan, Korea, I don't care.
Listen, you did Noblesse.
Like, somebody.
You did Noblesse.
Yes,
and
that's
Noblesse
something that
was
happened.
great. So, just saying. I'm just saying, it would be awesome. Oh, it would be so good. Let's see. Let's talk about Bam. We haven't talked about him really, except to, like, be like, this was the character's motivation towards this. So what were your thoughts on Violet into Bam from where we started reading about him until the end?
All right, here's my thing with Bam. He was far more interesting before he became the overpowered badass that he is, because in the first part of the reading is like, all right, how is he going to survive when everyone else is so much more skilled than he is? And now he's the ultimate badass. And the thing is, we really haven't seen a lot of development in his character, because at no point did he have the moral conflict of, should I just stay with Fug and fight against the 10 families and the nobility, or should I rebel against Fug? Like, automatically when he, like, came into the picture, it was very, very clear that he was going to abandon Fug and rejoin his allies. I think he is definitely one of the weaker characters that in this section of reading, but it definitely, now that he's back on with his team, I think it was a necessary transition to now build up this new character that he's become.
Yeah.
Because I feel like he needed to be the overpowered badass for that section of reading to work.
Yeah. What I do like about him is that compared to other protagonists, he isn't a protagonist that the story, the story moves around. Like, he's definitely part of the story, and he's definitely a character that moves the story along. But I agree that he's not quite as interesting. The part he's most interesting in this section of reading when he's fighting for his friends and when he's reuniting with his friends. That is when he's most interesting. I think my two favorite scenes in this whole section were when he met Rack for the first time again, where they hugged in the hallway and I cried. And then also at one of the very last chapters where Raccoon and Bam are sleeping, like taking a nap together. And it's just the cutest thing. And so that's like, Bam is much more interesting when he's with his friends and when he's fighting for his friends, as opposed to when he's trying to be a solo badass and doing his own thing. Because that's not his character. His character isn't someone who fights for themselves. He's a character who has been built up since the very start, that like a very shonen protagonist. Like he's a very standard shonen protagonist in that he fights for his friends. But I think he's going to get more interesting too, especially with the upcoming train battles, and I also with his relationship with Kun. I think there's going to be something, I don't know because I haven't read it, but I feel like there's going to be something else that happens between Kun and him, and I think that's going to keep my interest in Bam like going, and his new power. Hopefully they do a good job with the power and building it up, because there's the whole thing that, oh, you have this power now, and yeah. I almost said something and then I realized I don't think we read that chapter, because I did read accidentally one chapter ahead, so I didn't want to say anything. So I didn't.
Well,
didn't.
Good, because you would have been a rotten bacon butt, and we don't want those.
No.
One thing I will say is just, it's kind of absurd, like, for there to be any real narrative stakes with him being armed with a weapon that cut down a god, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how they can, I guess, bring him down to everyone else's level, because at this point he's very much not at that level.
Yes.
He's a threat to everyone in the tower, and they're only on the 30th floor.
Yeah. And that's been something that since he joined with the new group, that's been something that was kind of foreshadowed too. The fact that he's so much stronger than everyone else that he's with. It's like, why is he with these regulars? And it's like, what threat is he going to be facing? And they've definitely hinted at this threat and this threat is coming up, but none of it right now, at least, none of it feels like it's going to intimidate him or be that big of a challenge. The only one that does is Rachel. And that's only because of the really unhealthy attachment that Bam has to her. So that's going to be an interesting exploration. But again, that goes back to the fact that, like, Bam is interesting when he's in, like, when we're looking at his relationship with other characters. But yeah, we got a little bit of Rachel at the end. So creepy. She creeps me out. She creeps
that bitch.
She big bitch.
She's super evil.
She's so evil.
Super evil.
So mean. So mean. What about Kun? How did you feel about Kun in this section? We got a lot of Kun.
Kun is great.
He's good.
I wish he would be more, like, because in the earlier sections of the reading, I really enjoyed when he would actually get involved with the fighting, because he had his little bag that was full of, like, various interesting little gadgets and tools.
Yeah.
This section, like, he was playing coach. That's all he did. He had his lighthouses, and he was just giving directions. Like, he was being the standard, like, the strategist character, like the main character in Log Horizon, if you've seen that. Yeah. His role is to step back and give directions to all his team members. That's what Kun was.
Yeah.
And I don't like him in that role. I liked it more like in that last fight scene where he's like, all right, I need to do this badass thing where I'm gonna jump up and stab this girl that the shadow guy is holding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can definitely see that. I loved having him there as the guide, because he's so good he's been written to be really good at explaining to the audience what's happening without it sounding like we're being told what's happening, if that makes sense. And so because a lot of times you get a character that's like, oh, I'm stupid, what does this mean? And then they get told and you're like, that character should have already known what that means. But Kun was very good at, like, he he was kind of the protagonist of this section, I thought, because we got a lot of him working out what was happening. It was mostly the focus was on him and like him leading his teams and like making sure they won and did this and did this. So I think I appreciate him in both roles. I think he's fit for both, which speaks to a really well written character because he's fit for both, but not in a flimsy, what role do we need him to play? Okay, let's change him to fit that role. He just is good at both.
He's believable in both roles.
Yeah.
I will say in the section where he's the gambler and he's actually placing bets, I think I would have liked to see a little bit of his thought process.
Yeah.
For certain key rounds, like instead of just the Anak and Ran fight round, like that one, I would have liked to see more of his thought process of like, oh well, these are the reason why these people are most likely to win, and like break it down. Maybe not give everything away, and maybe have him be wrong a couple times, because I think that's one thing that this manga hasn't done enough of, is give flaws to its best characters.
Yeah.
Like Kun hasn't really shown a lot of flaws in anything, because he's always the most prepared, the most I guess the most intelligent person on the battlefield. Like he's always had that standpoint, and I want to see him. I mean, we're almost 200 chapters in. I want to see at least some weakness in his character, or some sort of emotional instability.
I mean, they brought up how like Rack laid into him and was like, why was it Rack? I think it was like the whole scene with Rack and him on the rooftop, when he was talking about like, why don't you want to go and get Black Turtle? Like, why don't you want to go and get him? And then the curry turtle, yellow-haired turtle guy, he came up and was talking to Kun about how, like, asking Kun what was going on, and Kun mentioned that the gem, his whole gem thing, where he said he wants to protect gems, and so if he gets a jewel, he doesn't do anything with it because he's scared of breaking it, and so he puts it away, hides it away, because he doesn't want anything to happen to it. And so there is that like emotional, where I think he gets very, very dependent very easily on people that are close to him, and because of that he gets very scared of losing it, and any sort of threat to that will break him a little bit. And like we saw when Bam was thrown from the tower at the end of season 1, and then Kun left the group, and everyone's like, why are you leaving and instead of sticking with us? And it's because he got scared of losing people again, and so he left. And he even brought up like, I don't want to hope that Bam's still alive. And so I think that's what is supposed to be his emotional weakness. And I think I feel like that's gonna get explored more, because it's been foreshadowed really heavily on. But I can definitely see where you're coming from in wanting to see more of that earlier on, too.
Like, I want to see, like, I see where you're coming from, but it's more along the lines of, I want to see that impact him in battle.
Okay.
He doesn't have that emotional weakness when he's in, like, let's say they're taking a test for the floor. Like, at no point does he show that, like, weakness on the battlefield. Yeah. Like, there's always the subtext of, like, yeah, he's concerned for his friends, which is why he makes the decisions that he does. But I think him be rattled, or seeing someone that can challenge him get involved, I think that would do a lot to develop his character.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with that. That makes sense. What did you think about yellow curry, your yellow turtle, curry turtle?
All right, curry turtle
Wagner
is pretty cool.
Yeah,
pretty cool. Like, he's just the dumb regular shonen protagonist, which, like, that was basically his role whenever Bam wasn't on there, and he was a shonen protagonist. And I like that at the very end we get like just a little bit of like foreshadowing of like a greater story. And I want to read, part of the reason why I want to read more really soon is because of his story. Like, I want to see what is his backstory and how is he going to develop as a character. because there was that one little dream sequence that we got. I want to say it was like chapter 187, like somewhere around there,
It's a very
like right before he actually wakes up. And you can tell that he went through some severe trauma. And if you look back at the readings, the earlier readings, before this chunk of reading, he had a nice little introduction and an interesting character arc around him in terms of like, all right, he'd almost given up on the prospect of advancing to another floor, but he decided to continue advancing, and like he was the leader of his group, like he was the glue that held everyone together. So I want to see how he continues to grow as a person.
I agree 100% with that. I was not sold on him at the start of when he was introduced, because he did feel very like, oh, he's very shonen-y, he's very like positive and inspirational and loves everybody. But just like all the other characters grew attached to him, I grew attached to him. And I was like, he is the leader. Like, he is so good at bringing the best out of people and bringing people together. And he's so sweet and just loves everybody. I was like, and he's really deadpan funny. What?
I was going to say, you know who he reminds me of?
Who?
The main character from Days. I don't know if you're watching that this season.
Oh, he does. I've only watched the first two because it's not my favorite. But he totally does.
Like he's the scrub of the group, but because he's a scrub, everyone wants to work harder to to see him succeed.
Yeah. I love that Kun was like, you have the least, like, your cost is the least amount of points. That's why you're going first. He's like, oh, okay. The part where he got stabbed hit me, even though I was expecting someone to get seriously hurt. When he got stabbed by Beta, my heart genuinely stopped, and didn't stop, but it was like, and my mouth dropped open, and I felt the same emotion that Bam and Kun felt. I was shocked. And the part where he drags himself over and calls Bam is so epic. It's freaking epic. That was another goosebump moment, because his dialogue plus the characters' reactions and everything, it was another build-up climax moment where he summoned Violet, and you're just like, oh shit, it happened, they did it. And it's just because it was this one character, the unsuspecting character who's weakest, but he's the one who did it. And you just feel all sorts of pride and excitement because he's the one who pulled that off. It was just so epic. I was really hoping he did not die. I was scared. I thought we were going to have a death speech from him. So I'm very happy that he did not die. Oh gosh, it's just so good.
It's great.
Let's talk about, look, we're almost at an hour and we're still just talking because it's so freaking good.
Now, keep in mind, that's just the two of us. So to put things in perspective, when Dodger and I did One Piece like a month ago, we did 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's like, we felt like we covered everything on that. Like Aaron and I talking Tower of God, solid hour. Like normally, like at like 45 minutes, we start going into like descriptions of art and then go into final thoughts and ratings, which we've talked about the art already. So I feel like that's already been covered enough, but there's a lot to say because it's dense and it's fantastic. Guys, please, if you haven't read it, go read it. It is so good.
At work today, I spent so much time at work just being like, guys, read this. Read this. You like comics? You should read this. You don't like comics? You should still read this. And I was just trying to get so many people to read it because it's so good. Yeah, there's so much to say. But we should wrap up and give our like final thoughts. Unless there's anything else you want to touch on. Like there was just, oh God, there's so much. Who is your best boy and your best girl?
All right. Best girl, the guide.
Yep.
I really like the guide. Like she's the smart character and she's kind of a badass too, and she's the only one that isn't really hung up on anyone's nuts. You know, she's doing her own thing, and I respect the hell out of her. And she also has my favorite design of all of them, like of all the characters. Yeah, she's very much best character design. Best guy. Uh, is between. Actually, no, I take that back. It's Rack. Rack for sure. Is best dude.
Yep.
For sure.
Rack.
The Gator Man. He's the best.
Rack. Oh, Rack and Yellow Curry Turtle are my best boys. But I love
I was thinking Curry Turtle.
And
like Curry Turtle is just so great.
Just love the character designs are all so attractive that it's like I'm just attracted to all of you. Like Ran is like such a like generic like emo dude, but I'm like you're still very cute. Like you're really very handsome, but you're not best boy. Curry Turtle I think is my best boy. Rack and Curry Turtle. Like Rack is a given. He's a no-brainer. So he's also my best girl. Rack is best girl. But I agree that Guide is best girl. So God's characters. There's just so many characters to love. And then when they leave and come back, you're like, oh my God, you're back. I forgot how much I love you. Yeah. So there's just a lot of shit about to go down too. Because Cassino grabbed the Emily stuff and took it to Rachel. So there's that shit going down. And there's the train test is coming up, which has been heavily foreshadowed to be a shit show. So that's gonna happen. They're gonna end up meeting up with the old team again in a year and a half. So that's gonna happen. There's foreshadowing with Yellow Curry. Oh God, there's just so much that's gonna happen.
Can we like just go ahead and put on the next schedule?
Yes.
Like, I kind of want to.
Yes.
Already.
There's just so much. Okay, final thoughts and ratings. Go.
9.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
This is fantastic. I have minor grievances with it, which is the only thing that's keeping it from being a 10. But they're very, very minor grievances, and like honestly, if it wasn't the third time I was reading this section, I would have given it a 10. I think overexposure to it is why I've caught on, because I definitely didn't notice the problems that I had with it the first couple times I read it. So yeah, 9.5 out of 10. Highly recommend. Beautiful art, fun characters, amazing action sequences. It's just fantastic. 9.5.
I'm going to give it a 9.8 because I want to give it a 10, but there are the minor things that we talked about in terms of like cop-outs at sometimes feeling like things were just placed there to like be filler, or things happened simply because the author needed them to happen as opposed to them naturally happening. Certain characters getting sidelined, like the villains being weak. But even that doesn't stop me from loving it as much as I do and being as entertained as I was. The art was engaging. I felt like I was in this world. I thought that the characters felt real. They were awesome. I was invested in their emotions and the pacing of the stories and how everything lined up. The action, choreography. It's so hard to look at this manhwa and not gush about it because that's how excited and in love I am with it. So I'm giving it a 9.8, but I also love it so much that it's like a 10 out of 10 for me. And I'm so overwhelmed with it.
So kind of like what Yoku's rating for it was the last MangaPod, which was 2 thumbs up out of 2 thumbs up, but not quite a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, that's what my rating is. That's exactly what it is. Guys, you're not going to do yourself a disservice by going and check this out. You're going to make your life better. It makes me feel more creative. It makes me want to write my own story and just hope that I can do characters and pacing near like a sliver as good as Sui does. So go and check it out, guys. You will not be disappointed, especially if it's your first manhwa. You will not be.
That's upset. A good one to start with, guys.
It's a good one. All right. So that's our discussion on Tower of God. As much as I want to keep talking because there was so much that happened, But we're going to put it on the next schedule, yo. And it's going to be great. And we're going to have everybody here. It's going to happen. So, definitely go and check it out. So now I'm going to read the description for the manga that we are reading next week. I'm going to bleep out certain words because you guys get to guess it. So here we go. Blank is out, much less anything beyond that. Still, Blank and Blank are boyfriend and girlfriend. The only couple-like thing they do is a daily routine in which Blank tastes Blank's blank. This is the bizarre yet utterly sincere story of their love. Blank, oh no, wait, I don't need to blank that. Richi Yushiba, author of Discommunication and Dream Users, and one of the greatest writers of our time when it comes to out-of-the-ordinary romance manga, brings us the unidentifiable romance manga in which everything is blank and blank.
Yeah, that's a lot of blanks. I feel like if I say one word, they will get it.
Say it.
Drool.
That's what I blanked. One of the many blanks.
One of the many.
Most obvious blank that needed to be blanked.
Yeah, and one of our most frequent guests is coming back, and it is his favorite manga, and the main girl is his waifu.
Yeah.
So.
While you guys are guessing, my mom texted me while we were having this manga pod and said, "I like banana pancakes," and sent me a picture of banana pancakes.
Nice.
So there's that.
I like banana pancakes.
Banana. Just
Banana.
little cat pancakes.
Yeah, basically.
Alright. No, not Nisekoi. It's very... Yeah, Moonlight! Girlfriend X. Mysterious Girlfriend X. Holla. That is what we are reading next week. We are reading volumes 1 through 4, chapters 1 through 28 with Dakota Broski. So that should be a fun time. Let's go ahead and shout out our stuff super fast. I'm Erin of Happily Erin. You're currently watching this on my YouTube channel. I have all the previous manga pods hosted here, as well as a lot of kawaii weeb trash stuff. Anime first impressions, anime reviews. I posted a video of my baby doing some sick dance moves, and it was so cute, so you should definitely go and check that out. I also do mental health awareness videos. If you want to check me out on any other social media site, I'm Happily Erin all across the everything, so check it.
What's up? My name is Lou, and I'm from Lou Talks Anime. I'm not used to going right after Erin, so that's why it took me a second to react.
It's true.
You can find me at youtube.com/LuluTalksAnime now, where I occasionally make anime-related videos. Not necessarily reviews. Sometimes I make really terrible AMVs. Sometimes I compare anime themes and tropes to presidential candidates. I do a lot of really strange things with my channel, but
beautiful.
It's a lot of fun. You can also find me at twitter.com/LouTalksAnime, AskFM LouTalksAnime, Instagram LouTalksAnime. And yeah, that's all my stuff. So let's go have a conversation about weeb shit.
Weeb shit, weeb shit, weeb shit. All right. Thank you all so much for watching. We really appreciate you guys viewing this on YouTube as well as being in the chat with us. You guys are awesome. We will be here same time, same place next week, 7:30 p.m. Pacific time on twitch.tv/dexteritybonus as well as youtube.com/happilyerin, reading Mysterious Girlfriend X, volumes 1 through 4, chapters 1 through 28 with Dakota Broski. So we hope to see you there, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye!
Laters.
Bye! Bye!
Bye.
Bye!
Bye.
Bye, turtles!